So mainly this is what my seminar is about. You guys are going to be fishing the deep, the abyss, 1,500 feet. It's pitch dark. There is no light whatsoever. You guys are going to be fishing in areas where there's just, crazy light. Everything is alien. Everything is bioluminescent. Everything creates light as defense, or, even keep in mind these red shrimp. These actually emit light when they're attacked. And I'm going to go into that a little later here in the seminar. This is a video of just, some deep water stuff, just some stuff that's down there, but I'm not going to show you guys. I'll run out of time. This is a 2-hour seminar, so I'm just going to try to cram it into 1 hour. So save the questions for the end. So how to get bit. Swordfish on the bottom, abyssal swordfish, they can actually feel and hear sound on the ocean floor. They get special organs in their brain that heats their eyes 15 degrees warmer than the surrounding water. It actually turns these fish into just super predators, designed for hunting, designed for finding prey down in the deep, where there is no light. You got to use whatever you can to your ability when you're down, 1,600 feet, 2,000 feet. There was a NOAA study of 28 swordfish that were tagged up on Georgia's bank, and the study showed some pretty crazy data. It showed that all these fish stayed 20 hours out of every 24 hours at a depth greater than 2,000 feet. There's actually a graph a little later in the slides, and you can actually see these fish hanging at the surface and then spending all their time down at 1,500, back to the surface, down at 1,500. So very methodical hunting pattern. I mean, these, go back for a sec. These fish will actually come in, they'll track the bait over a very long period. They'll attack with a short, fast burst of speed, over that long distance. And some of the tag fish have had speed bursts of up to 60 miles an hour. When they come in on a squid, or, they commit to eating the bait, they're really quick. Swordfish can always look, they've got those oscillating eyes. They can always look behind them and track that. Oof, that was terrible. Track that bait and find that bait. They say that they can hone in on the sound and the lights. I'm going to show you guys the rig here in a minute, but I'm trying to use sound and light to my advantage. I mean, picture, this is the lead that we use a lot. Just a Red Bull can filled with lead. It's 7 pounds. And, picture this thing banging on a mud bottom every 2 minutes. It's dead quiet. There's no boats around. You're going to have this banging on the bottom. Swordfish down there looking for bait. They're going to try to see what the heck that is. They're going to come in and investigate. Then you got your strobe lights blinking. That's going to also attract attention. You want to try to attract as much attention as you possibly can to you, to your boat, to your rig. Make as much noise as you possibly can. They say that, if you guys ever seen the movie Predator, they say that the swordfish eyes actually see in infrared and ultraviolet, opposite sides of the color spectrum. They're coming in and, they're not seeing normal color like we are. They're seeing, predator vision. They're down there just, hunting, using that eye, that superheated brain to their advantage to find prey down in the abyss. So lead and sound. Sound equals food. They say that low frequency sounds, such as a lead banging on the bottom, will travel 1,000 times further underwater than in air. Also the light. You guys are going to see these strobe lights. I'll show you in a second here. I've got a video in the end if we can get to it. But you can see that strobe light 100 feet down in the dark. They're very, very bright. And just use that sound, use that light to your advantage. So a lot of the Florida guys, they'll actually blast music sitting up on the surface, 1,500 feet up. Those swordfish can still hear that, even though they're down on the bottom. My buddy Seth, he swears by Thriller, RJ Boyle. Whenever he's swordfishing, he blasts disco music. I don't know if just that era, but I haven't really experimented with this up here in the Northeast, but mainly bouncing that lead on the bottom, almost like you're fluke fishing. A lot of you guys, oh, it's terrible. I'm going over here. So, a lot of you guys, you'll fluke fish, and, it's similar to that. You're going to find bottom constantly, use that to your advantage, use that lead bouncing the bottom, making that big mud plume, to bring them fish in. So here, this is a skull mount of a swordfish, and you can see how that ocular cavity there just holds that big eye. There is no other eye like that in the animal kingdom. Maybe giant squid, Humboldt squid. But that eye actually sits in this jelly mass, and it's just super heated, and that's designed to see any little faint amount of light that's down there in the darkness. You know, whether if it's a red shrimp blinking, if it's an ostracod, if it's a abyssal prey, it's going to emit light in bioluminescence. There's actually three. You can scroll through. There's actually 3 videos here of a swordfish attacking an ROV. And you see this one. This ROV is a little submarine. If you guys don't know what that is, sitting right on the bottom of the ocean, drilling and taking a core sample of the ocean. And the scientist is down there. He's doing his thing, and all of a sudden, this 500-pound swordfish comes out of nowhere, crashes into the ROV, gets wrapped up in the ROV, stuck in the hydraulics, and he's thrashing around, thinking it's prey. That ROV is just down there making a lot of noise. It's lit up, and it definitely caught the attention of this swordfish. I'll play it for you guys later in the end if I can. We're just going to, run out of time. But, yeah, keep going. All right, so rigging. I'm going to take you guys from the hook all the way to the reel, everything that you will need to try to daytime fish in the Northeast. My rig is, much different than, kind of the same principle as to what they're doing down south, but geared more toward the Northeast, where there's no current, much lighter current. I mean, up here, I'm relatively fishing 1 knot of current at best. Anywhere from Hudson to hydrographers running out of Rhode Island. I've caught swordfish in every single canyon from Hudson to hydro. So this rig, I pretty much scaled it down, made everything very low profile. Go to the next slide. All right, so in my opinion, there's only one hook to use. It's the Mustad Southern Style Tuna hook, the 7691. Same hook they use in Florida. It's a stainless steel hook, right out of the box, pretty razor sharp. Some guys do give them a little point, but I'm gonna pass this around just so you guys can check this out. That's the size hook we're using. Always J hooks, never circle. Circle hook, you're gonna lip hook the fish. A larger fish, it's gonna just tear right out during the fight. I gut hook the majority of my fish, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But I'm just gonna pass that around, and that hook has caught a few fish, so you can still see the point on that. But that's the hook you guys want to use. 11-0 Mustad 7691 stainless steel. You can use chafe gear at the hook, similar to what we do on our trolling rig, similar to spreader bar or something like that. Just in the crotch of the hook, never on the swivels. I think some of the bigger fish it might actually help, but you don't have to do it. Okay, so black double sleeve crimps. If you guys are familiar with crimping, you just need a small pair of hand crimpers. I like those black Bill Fisher style crimps, the 1.6B for the 200-pound mono and the 1.9B for the 300-pound leader. Usually when I'm daytime fishing, I'll have a little, 1.9B for the 300-pound leader, 1.6B for the 200-pound wind on. You guys get into the habit of doing this. When you're out daytime fishing, just have a little bag like this. I put all my 1.6s, my 1.9s. The 1.9s are bigger, so you can tell the difference. And then also some small little rigging elastics. I'll show you guys those in a second. But keep all that stuff right in a little bag, nice and handy. I usually keep it right in my front pocket because I'm constantly swapping out baits. I don't like how this bait is running. I'll take it off, crimp another one on. This way you're not rummaging around for stuff. Just makes you a lot more efficient. To set this rig correctly, probably looking at about 25 minutes to get it down to where you need to be fishing to do it right. So, all you need to do once you have your leader on your reel is to deal with those connections, and that's it. Have that, nice and handy, ready to go. So skirts. So pretty much I told you guys the hook, the chafe gear, the crimps, and next is your skirt. Simply, all you're using is maybe this front end of this skirt. What I do is I kind of trim my baits with scissors after, so I'm really only using maybe this front third of the bait, never the whole skirt, just because I want the bait visible. Majority of the baits that I'm using are relatively small. A lot of you guys think, daytime fishing, when you use this big bait, it will work, but I like a smaller bait, something that's going to go down the hatch quick. Big eyes, I've caught multiple big eyes, you know, rigging the small Panama style strip, and I'll show you guys that in a second here. But my entire bait is probably about the size of this picture here. I would say maybe a 10-inch, 11-inch bait, nothing bigger than that. So high quality ball bearing swivel, this is where you guys want to spend the money. Buy the absolute best ball bearing swivel you can find. It's the whole key to keeping this rig running straight and true through the water, coming up and down 1,500 feet with a real fast reel, like the Hooker Electric. You guys want to make sure there's no spin. If not, you're going to get something that comes up looking like this next slide here. Actually, sorry, it's actually the slide after this, but this is the connection to connect that swivel at the end of your leader. So here you've got your 125-foot wind on, which is this. This is already on your reel. So at the end of that wind on, you're using the 1/6B to crimp to your swivel, and then you've got your 300-pound diamond extra hard. That's where you can use your 1/9B, and that's basically the connection. You don't want to really cinch that loop right to the swivel. Just, you know, a nice little small loop like that. If you do it the opposite way, you know, you put a little too much tension on it, you'll pop them off. I have experimented with this in the past. You guys can add in a little shark rattle, just for some extra sound. You can actually slide that right on the leader, and then you can just floss in front of it and behind it to keep it locked in place. Keep it relatively close to the swivel, because if you know, you don't want it stopping at the rod tip and keeping you from harpooning that fish later in the fight. So if you do choose to use this, you do not have to. I've experimented. I've caught with it. I've caught without it, but it does kind of add a little bit of you know, a little bit of noise. But just keep it, you know, maybe within 1 foot of the swivel. So light up the abyss. This is what you guys want to buy. The LP Diamond. Always buy these. I think they're the best lights for daytime fishing. I've got two on the rig here. They're very low profile. They go through the water really nice. A lot of guys, you know, they'll fish the solid colors. The solid colors have 400 hours of life. They're water activated, so once these things go in the ocean, they turn on, they come out of the ocean, they dry off, just give them a little spray of fresh water, you know, they turn off. So the multicolor light, it's the disco strobe. It's on constantly, so that only lasts about 50 hours. My go-to colors, I like the blue close to the bait, and I like the multi far from the bait. A little more obnoxious on the multi, so I try to keep it a little further away. So basically the light is breakaway. So once I have this set above my swivel, I'll go about 6 feet to my blue light. My leader's 15 feet long, so 15 and a 6, you're roughly 20 feet away from the bait is your first blue light. Then another 20 feet going up the leader, you're gonna add the next light. These lights simply slide on the line. I'll show you guys here. So when you guys have your leader on your rod, the lights are just sliding free on the main line, and that's above your swivel. So that can slide right down to your swivel. And then after, when you're fighting a fish, those are gonna get to the tip. They're gonna break the elastic there. I can show you guys quick. Actually, we'll do it after. I'll show you guys how to wrap those wrap those lights in place. So lights break away. When it gets to the tip, breaks the elastic, it'll slide right down to the swivel. This way you guys can harpoon your fish. You can get these in anywhere, really. I mean, Joann Fabrics and Art Supply, some of the tackle stores, but you can get a whole pile of them relatively cheap, you know, $3. Okay, so the wind-ons. We usually make our wind-ons out of 200-pound Genkai. You can use clear or smoke. I like the smoke on the leader, and then clear on the leader to the fish. So this is the 15-foot piece between the swivel and the fish. This is the business end. The Momoy Diamond Extra Hard. It's very abrasion resistant. You can use this, you know, any billfish application. If you guys are trolling around, you can buy it in a 150-yard skein. So I make 15-foot pieces of that, and that's where my hook is crimped to. Just a lot more abrasion resistant. You got a big sword down there swinging his bill. Genkai is very soft and very supple, so you know it does chafe. You will break off, you know, using the regular Genkai. So definitely go to the Diamond Extra Hard. So the floss loop. This is 10 feet from the end of the loop-to-loop connection. I'm going to pass this around. You guys can see this floss loop, but on the end here, we served on to a piece of Spectra, and we'll tie a bimini to the braid on the reel, and then loop-to-loop connection onto the leader. Your leaders are 125 feet long. I think the best leaders on the market. They're made by my buddy Seth down in Florida. 3 buoys. I actually have about 50 of these for sale. He gets $50 a leader, but they're about 200 knots to actually make that whole connection here. I'm going to pass this around. You guys can see the connection, the floss wax loop where you hang the lead. So pretty much that's what the floss wax loop looks like. You can see that on there. It's done in black. And we make these nice and low profile so they can actually go right through the level wind on the Beastmaster. You'll have no problem getting onto the Hooker Electric or the LP. It's very small, 2 pieces of floss, then we floss in the 3rd piece to make the braid end. And it's relatively strong. I mean, it's doubled up 84-pound floss, and that's where you guys are going to hang your lead. So long line clip, I personally do not do this. I just use a small snap swivel on the top end. You guys can see that there, just to eliminate some of that drag. Kind of get into the habit of using small stuff. Just clip that right onto my line in that floss wax loop, and I'm good to go. This way, when this comes up, I can just grab the line, unclip it, and let go, and then I fight right to the fish 125 feet away. So the dropper and the lead, I make it out of this is 400-pound LP. It's roughly about 10 feet. So 10 feet to the snap swivel on either side. Good high quality. One on the bottom, one on the top. That's pretty much that. So loop-to-loop connection, I showed you guys that. Leaders going around, you guys can see those. But that's probably the most important part to this whole day timing thing, is the correct leader, correct placement of things where they need to be. All right, so braid, you guys always want to use braid, obviously. Cut the water, no stretch. You guys are going to try to drive that hook home 1,600 feet down, so you do not want any stretch. I know down in Florida they'll use a much longer leader, 200-foot leader. I kind of cut mine back to 125, sometimes even 100, and it's working great for us. So the deep drop rod, this is something I want to really stress. If you guys are going to buy a reel, make sure you get the correct rod. These rods are really nice and soft, and I'm just going to show you a demonstration of how this rod bends. The blanks we really like are the slow pitch 550 from Jigging World, and also the 450 gram black hole jigging blank, and also the black hole giant blank for heavier application. I'm going to show you guys, I think if you go to the next slide, you'll see the parabolic bend in this. We did not catch this fish. That's a long line fish, about 800 pounds, but that's just to show you guys what's out there. I mean, if you guys are going to try to target some real trophy fish, definitely go with a heavier setup. I'm a charter guy, so we kind of go with the lighter setup too, just to have a little more fun with it. Well, you'll see this rod kind of in action. I mean, we've caught big eyes over 200 pounds on this rod. I'm going to pass this around to you guys, kind of see how light this setup is. But you guys can see the comparison here, and then go to the next slide. Our rods, very soft, very subtle, more moderate action, compared to some of the rods down south, much stiffer, stump puller kind of setups. We're trying to, get away from that, and we're not pulling any hooks. I hooked 42 swordfish in 12 trips. I pulled the hook on 1, landed 41 fish. I think a lot of that is the rod. A lot softer. You can see the bites better. Not pulling any hooks. One of my buddies was using this identical setup, LP with the RJ Boyle rod. Great rod for down south. Great rod for heavyweight application. I think for Northeast, it's way overkill. You guys can get away with these softer, more parabolic blanks. We use a lot of that stuff giant bluefin fishing up the Cape, and we learned that the softer rods actually, we lost a lot less fish as going with the softer rod. My builder is Ralph Craft. I have a bunch of his cards here. If you guys are interested in getting a rod, you just mention that you got the card from me. I think he gives you like $100 off the build. So, definitely, well worth it. So soft tip. This is one of the blanks here with my co-captain Jack Sprengel. He's got a 65-pound kettlebell hanging off the end of that rod. Ton of drag on it. A lot of lift, a lot of backbone, but still nice and soft and very parabolic. Okay, so reels. I'm going to bring you guys through the three different options, pros and cons to each one, and we'll go from there. I'm Shimano Pro staff, so they gave me this Beastmaster 9000 the beginning of last year. I was like, what the heck is this, guys? This is a kite reel. I'm not going to be able to use this deep dropping, and we really gave it hell. 55 pounds of drag. We had 41 swords on it. Didn't skip a beat. It did get pretty hot a few times where I did unplug it, when it's really down and buried and the fish is digging. I wish I had a much more powerful reel. On some days, I'm smaller fish, I would say an 80-pound to 125, 150 class swordfish, no problem. You guys can have fun with that. But the days when I hooked the 300-pound fish, the 250-pound fish, that rod just sat there, dogging the reel for 4 or 5 hours, just trying to help it with a glove. Where I think going with a little heavier option would have been key. This is the Beastmaster, bent up with about a 150-pound sword on. Pros and cons. I think the only con to this is that very limited line capacity. If you guys break off, you're going to have to re-spool at sea. So have a 3,000-yard spool of braid, on hand. I think for anything 200 pounds and under, I think the Beastmaster is a great choice. You guys can use it tile fishing, smaller swordfish and big eyes. So the next reel I'm really excited about, and I just got it new for this 2016 season. We're going to try to step up our game here. Is the Hooker Electric 80W. We matched it up to a black hole giant blank. This blank's been proven up in PEI. These guys doing 1,000-pound giant bluefin tuna stand up on this blank, and it's also a very parabolic, soft blank. You guys got a Tiagra drag. In my mind, there's no better drag than a Tiagra drag. 130 or 80W, time tested, proven. I mean, it's very reliable, awesome drag. This reel is also super fast, 500 feet per minute. On 12 volt, I think if you guys are running Sporties 24 volt, it's 1,000 feet per minute. So you guys can hit bottom, come up in 2 minutes, and go re-drop and be fishing. Where a lot of the softer reels, slower reels, it's going to take you a while to get that rig back up. So you're going to spend a lot more time fishing, less time waiting for that rig to come up and down. If you're checking baits or if you got a bite, I think the Hooker Electric is going to be key to that. I mean, we're going to try to do, our best day last year was 7 swordfish in one day, from dusk till dawn, daytime fishing, and also 4 big eyes. This year, my goal is to do double-digit swordfish in one day from dusk till dawn. I think with the addition to this reel, much faster retrieve, I think you guys are going to, really kick ass, and I think we're going to, reach our goal of double-digit fish. Ton of capacity on that, 3,000 yards of braid. You're not going to break off. The next option, LPS 1200, great workhorse of a reel, very commercial. Gunnel fight only, no hand crank. I think the price point, they're a little expensive, but also great reel, kick-ass reel, manufactured down in Florida. All right, so bait rigging. I know you guys want to see this. They all work. Bonito strip, mahi belly, yellowfin tuna bellies, bluefish bellies, American eels, very hardy. The American eel, I mean, you guys can rig those up. Fish one bait all day. If you do it correctly, that eel can get beat to crap by a big swordfish, hook multiple fish and be fine. Also, some of the bonito strips, if you guys sew them up correctly, we're doing 2-3 fish on one bait. I think the rattier the tail looks, the more action it has after it's caught a few fish, works even better. Same kind of principle if you guys are, eel fishing. catch a big 40-pound striper on an eel, I reuse that same eel. I put them right back down, usually catch another one. Yeah, you can go over to the next slide. So basically, I just caught a fresh bonito, and this is right out of the ocean. I'll cut the belly out of the fish, mainly come right down below, behind the gills, and then all the way back to the tail with your blade, and it pretty much creates that chunk. Most important part to this bait is make sure you guys preserve this end piece. Try to get all the way down to the tail. That's where you get the most action out of the bait. And then what I do is I cut around all the fin structure through there. I get rid of that anal fin. I get rid of all these finlets. So after that, this next slide here, you guys will see pretty much what you're going to have. This is going to be the belly section. Oh, excuse me, the belly section of false albacore. You guys are going to trim out that meat and make that bait very nice and flat. The next slide, you guys can see what that bait's going to look like. This is getting a little better here. So once you get rid of all of this, most important part of this is always make sure that you guys lay that hook shank very flat right down in here. You guys want the whole hook to be inside the bait. What I normally do to attach this is I'll take my rigging needle, I'll go right through the eye of the hook, around the bait, very nice and easy. You don't want to really cinch down, just to keep that hook in place. Then on the next slide here, what I do is I wrap down the hook shank, and I always find the hook with the needle before I push through. So I'll insert that needle, I'll make sure it's riding on that hook shank, I'll push down and really make sure that that hook is stuck solid. So there's no space in between the hook and the bottom of that belly. So that hook shank is right here, right in the meat, cannot move. It's very, very important. This is going to make it so that that hook can't move, stays nice and true, and acts as a keel. When that bait is going down to the bottom or coming back up, it's going to stay perfectly straight, not going to have any wobble to your bait, and make sure you guys get into the habit of doing that. So the next step, I know I'm kind of going through this fast here, but you can actually go on YouTube and learn how to rig these. Thanks, Mike. So next step is you take your skirt, you're going to slide that down over the top of your stitched bait. It's only stitched at the top hook section here. You guys can see that there. I only stitch down to the hook and then back up a few stitches over the top to close that bait up nice and tight. But I want this open. I know a lot of guys, sometimes they'll stitch all the way down, and I think that that's very limiting. It's making the bait have a lot less action. These fish up here are loaded with snake mackerel. I'm going to show you this in a second here. But this bait pretty much resembles a snake mackerel. All my big eyes, all my swordfish are chock full of snake mackerel. So after, I'll leave the tag end hanging down with the needle. Actually, go back to the last one. So here you guys can see that. So I didn't tie this off. I left the tag end hanging on the needle. I'll slide my skirt down nice and snug over the top. I kind of, match the side. I'm really kind of crazy with that. I make sure that the dark part of the bait is on the top, the white's on the bottom, nice and natural. I'll bring my needle back up and I'll actually floss right through the skirt, through the bait, and then back through, tie a few half hitches nice and tight, keeping that skirt locked onto the front of that bait. And that's key. I mean, you can do multiple fish on that bait, but that is my go-to bait for the Northeast. Then always check your baits. Drag them behind the boat at 3, 4, 5 knots. Make sure they're dead straight running. Make sure that there's no wobble at all before you guys send this thing down to the abyss. Make sure that it runs dead straight. It has a little wobble at all, no good. Dead straight, send it. Good to go. All right, so rig deployment in the Northeast. I call it, visual confidence. Just try to visualize fishing a three-way rig 2,000 feet deep. So the rig is deployed into the current at around 3 knots. I always bump my vessel in gear. I never just keep it in gear. The rig is deployed slowly and never in free spool. I don't ever free spool that rig just in case something hits it on the way down or something happens. You guys are going to bird nest, a reel with, 3,000 yards of 80 braid. Not going to be pretty. So just a slight amount of drag, just enough to have it creeping off and keep that weight going down nice and straight. So once the target depth is reached, I always make sure that, I back the boat down slow. So what I normally do, say you're fishing 1,500 feet, I'll let out 1,450 feet on the line counter, right? It's going to be way out behind me. It's going to look like you're trolling past the opposite side of this expo center. It's going to be scoped way, way, way out. So now that I'm at 1450, I'm looking at my depth sounder, I'm in 1500, take the boat out of gear, and I'll turn around, I'll have the rod right. I think this thing just died. All right, so setting the rig, you guys want to make sure, you're in 1450, 1500 feet, let out, have about 50 feet of left. And then what I do, I take my boat out of gear, I'll back down to the rig will scope down, it'll come down, and it pretty much be straight up and down. Once I hit that point, then I'll find bottom. So boom, I just hit bottom, drove that weight right in, I'll turn the reel on, the rod will really load like you're hung on the bottom, and all of a sudden it'll pop free. Weight just pulled out of the mud, now you're fishing. So bring that lead 100 feet off. I like to use Power Pro Depth Hunter. Every 25 feet, it has a hashtag. So I'll come up 4 colors, right? Now I'm fishing 100 feet off the bottom. That's where you guys are gonna wanna fish. That's where I'm getting all my swords, all my big eyes. It's 100 feet off the bottom. So if you're in 1600, bring it up to 15. If you're in 1500, bring it up to 14. And then what I do is I set my watch, every 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, I'll bang bottom with that lead, and use the lights. So all that's really happening is you've got a 125-foot leader. You've got your lead on a 10-foot dropper, 125-foot leader. Lead's gonna bang bottom, but the bait doesn't go all the way to the bottom. The bait kind of stays stationary. So the lead will bang bottom, the bait will keep going, lead bangs bottom, bait keeps going, using that sound to bring in the swordfish. You guys hear me or no? It's all right? All right. Hello? All right, good, we got it. Yeah, you guys take a picture of that. Basically, that's what that rig's gonna look like. You're gonna have your boat, you're gonna have your braid, you can have your loop-to-loop connection, your floss wax loop with your lead, 10 feet from the loop-to-loop, and then coming down your leader, you're gonna have your first light, your second light, your swivel, your 15 feet of diamond extra hard to the hook bait. So if you guys can visualize that, fishing 2,000 feet down, that's pretty much what you're gonna be fishing. All right, yep. $1 per picture.
All right, I'll take it.
Okay, all right, and always set the rig into the current when you guys are doing this. Lobster gear Raycons, if you're on the edge, you're in 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet, the edge of Hudson, the ball with the Raycon on it is always down tide. So what I'll do is I'll motor my center console over to the side of this, point the bow at it, and I'll say, all right, the current's coming from the east. I'll always be running east whenever I'm setting my bait. All right, so detecting bites, the correct rod. I'm gonna use the white rod for this. Actually, want to give me a hand with this? This is really important. If you guys are gonna daytime fish, the bite is very subtle. It's like a scup bite, 2,000 feet down. It's like a fluke bite. I'm gonna show you guys the 3 different bites here. So normally, yeah, it's crazy. All right, so 3 different bites. When you guys are drifting, you're gonna have 7 pounds of lead hanging off your rod. You pretty much have something that's gonna look like this. So you guys are drifting in the current. I like to call it rod rhythm. Same thing, one thing I learned from RJ Boyle. You kind of watch some of his videos of daytime sword fishing. Get in tune with this. It's simply the boat rocking with 7 pounds of lead hanging off the end of the rod. So the first bite, this is what's gonna happen. You guys are gonna be watching, all of a sudden it's gonna do this. You say, oh shit, what just happened? I break off? Nope, that fish is hooked. It came in real hot, 60 miles an hour. You get that sharp 7691, snagged the fish in the top of the head, snagged him in his eye. That fish is heading right to the surface. All my big eyes that I hook, slack the rod like this. As soon as you guys see this, engage the reel and let the electric do its thing, let it catch up to the fish, and then all of a sudden, it's gonna come tight and you're gonna set the hook in that fish. All my big swords, as soon as I hook them, they'll swim right to the surface. All my big eyes, right to the surface, slack rod. So if you guys see the slack rod, you're hooked up. So the next one, you guys are drifting, get in tune with that rod rhythm. You're always watching it. It's gonna look exactly like this. all of a sudden you're going to see something out of the ordinary. You're going to have this, you're going to be staring at this for 10, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you're going to get something that does that. You get rod rhythm, boom, boom. That's a small fish. That's like a 100-pounder, 150-pounder. He's just coming through, boom, boom. So when I see that, I tease the fish. I use the reel. I constantly keep my bait moving, keep that fish interested. I'll use the reel, you know, give it a blast, go zzz, wait, zzz, wait, and then all that's going to do, it's going to pull the bait away from the fish. He's going to get more aggressive. You're going to get more bites. Usually, sometimes this go on 10 minutes before you'll actually hook them. Usually, they'll start to slack the rod. You'll see something a little more like this. You'll see less weight. You know, instead of that rod rhythm of that heavy lead on there, it might look something like this. You're hooked up. Engage the reel. A lot of times too, the third bite, this is my favorite bite. I find it's the bigger fish. You know, you'll have the same thing. You'll have that rod rhythm, and then all of a sudden you're going to get boom, boom. You're going to get a big whack. When you get that, what I do is I slack the reel. I set the lead on the bottom. And what that does is it stops the bait. And all that's going to do, it's going to let that swordfish think he killed that bait after he came in and whacked it with that bill. I mean, a 400-pound swordfish has a massive bill. He thinks he stunned that bait. He's going to loop right back around, come in, and he's going to down that bait right down the hatch. So as soon as I see that, I rest my lead on the bottom, I let that fish commit, and then I let the fish load the rod. Sometimes I'll put the boat in gear, and you'll just watch the rod do something like this. It'll just get heavy, 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 and then it'll start pulling drag. I always want to have about 30 pounds of drag on the hookup. Let that rod really load, put the boat in gear, try to drive that hook home, and guarantee that fish is going to be gut hooked. This big fish here, this fish was down the hatch. I mean, you reach all the way in to get the hook out. I mean, it's way down, gut hooked.
Coming up in 15 minutes, 1 o'clock, Swordfishing the Atlantic, Captain courtesy Chasin. That's taking place at the theater at the Maryland Exit Hall in 15 minutes at 1 o'clock.
Yep. If I'm fishing at 1550, you're only dropping the lead though. You're not dropping the bait because the leader's 125 feet long. The bait's only going to move a little bit, maybe 10, 15 feet, but that lead's going to rocket to the bottom. It's going to stop that bait. It's going to cause that fish to come in hot and eat it. Gut hook the big fish. Always gut hook them. A lot of guys, you know, they'll see the bite. They'll say, "Oh, I got one," and they'll engage the reel. Don't do that. You're gonna lip hook the fish, and he's going to be huge like this. He's going to swim to the top. He's going to jump. Hook's going to fall right out, and you just lost a fish of a lifetime. Free spool, set the lead on the bottom, let that fish commit. It's just like a shark. It's going to come in and just, eat right next to the boat. Just like shark does. If you guys hand feed blue sharks or makos, sword's going to do the same thing. Very opportunistic. He's just going to eat that bait. All right, so 3 different bites. I kind of went through all of that. And it's very subtle. You're fishing 2,000 feet down. It's the most subtle bite you guys will ever see. I mean, it's like a fluke bite. Okay, so I went through that. I showed you guys 3 different bites. This was a video, Hooker Electric. They actually make a camera that goes on the swivel that shines on the bait, and you can actually see this swordfish coming in, pitch dark, 1,600 feet down, come in and just whack the bait. Then he fades off and goes away. And this went on for 20 minutes. Came back, whacked the bait again, went and faded away. And then all of a sudden he committed and he came and he hooked himself. And then this was Nick Stanzik down in Isla Morada. I don't have enough time to play all these videos, so I'm going to run out of time here. So just kind of go through. So big eyes, all of our big eyes were as deep as 2,000 feet. We're nowhere near the canyon. We're out past the canyon. This was about our average size, about 110, 120 pound fish. The largest fish is the next slide here, 222 pound big eye, and that was on that Panama strip. My favorite skirt is the Black Bart petrol color skirt. The 11-inch skirt with a Panama strip bait, I think is the way to go. That is my go-to. I'll always rig about a dozen of those and have those ready to go. Black Bart petrol skirt, P-E-T-R-O-L. It's the ugliest skirt you've ever seen in your life. It's brown on the top, it's got an orange stripe, white on the bottom. The big eyes, hammer that thing. Whenever I use that skirt, it's Big Eye City. This is a 10-day death profile of a tagged big eye tuna. sitting on the surface at night, and always 1,500 feet during the day, right about 500 meters. So 1,500 feet during the day, on the surface at night. Never really spends much time mid-water. All these fish are down to the bottom or up to the top, down to the bottom, up to the top, down to the bottom, up to the top. So when you guys are trolling around during the day, you're not getting any bites, start deep dropping. Send a bait down 1,500, instant bigeye. It's amazing. If you guys are in the right spot, the hookup is instant. You set it, you come up 100, maybe you'll bang bottom 2-3 times, boom, boom, all of a sudden you get your bite and you're tight. It's insane. I think the fishery here in the Northeast, people think daytime sword fishing, they think Florida. Oh, I'm gonna go to Florida, go daytime sword fishing. You're fighting the current, you're driving the boat as much as you are fishing. It's 5 knots of current, 4 knots of current. Up here, my boat's off. I'm side 2, it's like you're drifting for sharks, chumming for tuna.
Are you marking those fish?
Nope, never mark them.
You just look, what are you looking for?
Nothing. Structure. I'll show you that in a second. You don't mark anything. No bait, no marks. I'm just confident that they're there. I fished 1 rock pile the entire season last year, 2015. It wasn't even really a rock pile. I would say it was a hill, maybe about the size of this expo center. And it would go from 1,700 to 1,400 back to 1,700. Just a gradual mud hill. No rocks at all. And every time I got on the back side of this hill, I would set up tide, because your rig's so long, it takes you some time to get it down. Set up tide of the hill. As soon as I would get to the peak and go over the top, just like striped bass, boom, I was tight, big swordfish. Or big eyes every single time. So where to find swords? Actually, go right to the next slide. I'm going to try to cruise through this. So you guys are going to find something like this out off the edge. I'm nowhere near the edge. I'm looking for pinnacles, out off the edge. 1,700 feet around it. 1,400 feet on the top of it. All my swords were on the back side of this hill. So if I had the current coming from east to west, I would set my rig up here before my boat would drift to it. I would go over the top and I'm constantly banging bottom, boom, bang bottom, bang bottom, bang bottom, tight. As soon as I got to the peak, every single time, every single drop, I was tight on a fish. Hudson, my last drop was November 9th. I did a drop here in Jones Valley, right about in here, and we had a 210 sword. I think it's the next slide. Nope, but short drifts. This was the fish from Jones Valley, November 9th. There's nasty green water. There's a bunch of rat yellows. A little bit of a fleet there. But the best part about this is you guys can be by yourselves. There's no fleet. You're not in the canyon. Half the time when I'm out daytime fishing, it's ghost town. There's no one around me. I'm totally by myself. I don't really talk on the radio. I just kind of keep it to myself. I'm out there. I'm watching all the madness, 8 miles away on the radar, 300 boats just sitting there pushing the fish down, causing a bunch of madness. I'm out there by myself, just tight all day on swordfish. And I think the best time, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Am I running out of time? 10 minutes? All right. So abyssal fish, everything down in the deep emits light as in escape mode. When these red shrimp are attacked, go to the next slide. When these red shrimp are attacked, they emit a light bomb. So all these swordfish, they kind of correlate that light with food. So hence why I'm using the LP Diamond Blue closest to the bait. I've pulled countless red shrimp out of the swordfish up here. They're big red shrimp. They're right on the bottom in the mud, predominantly fishing mud bottom, never rock bottom, always mud bottom. Loaded with shrimp, loaded with snake mackerel. This is one of them red shrimp. I actually have a video of it being eaten by a fish down in the deep, but I can't play it here. I'll run out of time. So swordfish diet, I've pulled everything, crazy stuff out of swordfish. This is a half of a red shrimp. That's a deep water pomfret, squid, a bunch of squid beaks. That's a deep water anglerfish. Those weird things you see on TV. Pulled one of them out. This is mainly what they're eating up here in the Northeast on a mud bottom. Oh, excuse me. As soon as I catch a swordfish, we got that fish, we inspect the stomach. I can tell that this species of fish, this hatchet fish and this snake mackerel, they live in the mud on the bottom in the Northeast canyons. All your swordfish and your big eyes are chock full of these things when they come onto the deck. I've pulled giant squid arms. That's a squid tentacle the length of my arm out of a swordfish stomach last season. That squid had to be 7 feet long. I mean, it had an arm. You know, it was enormous. This is a fresh snake mackerel. You know, right out of a freshly killed swordfish. He was roughly about the size of my bait, about a 10-inch snake mackerel. You guys can tell by inspecting the contents of the stomach where that fish is feeding. If he's loaded with squid, I bet you it's an early morning caught swordfish. It's on the bottom, just went down after feeding all night up on the surface on squid. Usually around 3-4 p.m. I'm catching swordfish. I inspect the stomach. It's loaded with snake mackerel and cutlass fish, all abyssal stuff, the red shrimp. And I can tell that fish has been feeding on the bottom for a few hours. So fighting and landing. After you set the hook, make sure that you guys back the drag off 25 pounds of drag at most. You know, you can kind of test what the beauty of that hooker electric. You can put that, you know, the Shimano drag right up to the stop, set it at 25 pounds. But when you set the hook, go over a little bit. You want to set the hook about 30 pounds and back it off to 25. Swordfish are very soft. They're not like tunas. Yeah, I can stick my fingers in the mouth of a swordfish and literally just rip the bottom jaw right off the fish. It's that soft. It's not like a tuna where it has that hard bony jaw. Very, very soft jaw. Getting in the habit of resting the lead on the bite and gut hook the fish. This is a great video. This is a guy fighting a big swordfish out of, I think, Miami, and he snaps the rod in half, and he's standing there, and he's so stunned, and then all of a sudden, the fish comes tight on the reel, and it pulls his Tiagra 80, then goes cartwheeling right off into the ocean. But I can't really play it for you. You guys will be cracking up. That's a good video. So fighting, don't rush. Always make sure that you let that soft rod do its job. We'll load that rod with a gloved hand, let the reel take up the slack, let the rod load, and then the rod will always lift that fish. When swordfish come up, they're not like tuna. They won't go into that circle and sit down there and, you know, under the boat and just go into that circle, spin. They're always head down, tail up. The leader is along the body the whole time. The hook's gut hooked into the fish. The leader is resting right on that body the whole time. And this is where you're going to lose the fish. It's where that tail is beating that leader and just, you know, taking that time. So that's why I'm using a 15-foot leader. My swivel's up here. You got that 300-pound diamond extra hard taking all the abuse. So they're very unpredictable. When these fish come to the top, they're going to jump, they're going to charge the boat. I had one jump onto my gunnel last year, about 200 pounds, onto the gunnel. We all fly out of the way. The fish is flailing around on the gunnel, falls back in the water, goes over to the back of my boat, attacks all 3 of my outboards with his bill, scratched the holy hell out of my outboards, and then dove down to the bottom, and we got him 4 hours later. It was insane. So after learning that lesson, I always have 2 harpoons ready to go. 2 poon harpoons, 2 baskets. As soon as I get a shot on that fish, I have a video here actually. I don't know if I'm gonna run out of time, but 2 harpoons at once, both thrown right into the fish, and that stops them dead. As soon as they get a harpoon, they just kind of slack off. They freak out. You can gaff them, get a tail rope on them, and you win. But at first, we were trying to gaff these fish. We weren't throwing the harpoon. Do not do that. Get a harpoon in the fish, and use that to your advantage. That was that video there. This is actually the same swordfish, but that's the harpoon actually flying through the air, going right into the gill plate of the swordfish. But I'm not going to play. I'll run out of time. 2 harpoon setups at all times. Get practice. Practice throwing that dart. Make sure you guys are pretty good at sticking the fish. I think anything center mass is good. With a swordfish, really hit him anywhere you can. I had a sword last year. I think it's the next slide. Yeah, this fish here. This fish I fought 5.5 hours. He doesn't look big in that picture, but he's huge. He's almost 600 pounds, I would say, 550. And I darted the fish. I hit him right in the tail. I hit him right here. And what happened was the dart went in, stuck in the spine, and didn't come out the other side. Fish ran all the dart line, took the ball, started burying the reel all the way back into the spool, and an hour later we pulled the dart. An hour after that we pulled the hook on the fish. It was the most heartbreaking thing. It still hurts. Every time I see that picture, I'm just like, oh my God. And that was on the lighter setup. So, there are some big, huge bruiser swordfish out there. If you guys are going to invest in an electric setup, I would go probably hooker electric just for the advantage of the drag. the speed. If you guys want to have a lot more fun with it, go Shimano Beastmaster 9000. You know, you guys get, you know, all day, 200-pound fish, 180-pound fish on the Beastmaster, no problem at all. You know, a little less expense. You know, you're probably looking at around $1,600 for the reel, where the hooker's going to drop you about $3,500 just for the reel. Great way to break into the fishery. Try it out. If you guys get a little more serious, upgrade to the hooker, and you guys can really do some damage. Releasing the small fish, we kind of try to release everything, you know, 100 pounds and under. This fish did not get released. He has a harpoon stuck right in his back there. But if you guys do release him, you can just grab him right by the bill. Nice pair of gloves. The smaller fish have much sharper bills than the bigger fish. The smaller fish will actually cut you. So, you know, get 2 hands on the bill. You can reach down, pop that hook out, and release them. They'll swim right back down to the bottom. And this is my last slide for you here. If you guys have, you know, you get a nice big fish and you want to preserve the bill, a lot of guys, they'll break out their hacksaw and they'll start cutting right here, right across the bill. Do not do that. That ruins the bill. What you want to do is you'll have the head of the sword, the big bill sticking off. Just take a nice serrated Dexter Russell, cut right through the top of the head, through that big eye cavity, so right through the top of the eye, down out the bottom of the eye, and now you'll have the whole bill, but with an extra chunk of meat on it. And then all you got to do is just take some braid, tie it around the bill, hang it right off your dock. You know, usually in the summer when you guys are canyon fishing, it's warm water at the dock, you know, 80-degree water. All those little stuff's going to get in there. It's going to make that nice and loose. Usually about 5 or 6 days, you just grab the bill, give it a quick sharp pull, and that whole meat, you know, head piece is going to drop right off, and you can actually see where the veins were going up into this bill to supply blood. This whole piece will come right off and be nice and clean like that. You just shake it off in the water, and you know, it'll preserve that nice, you know, uniqueness of every fish. This is our 440 nighttime fish. This is our 360 daytime fish. But you can kind of see, you know, that nice unique characteristic there, and you get a nice trophy out of it. So if you guys have any questions, I know I kind of cruised through that fast, but